in New York. The question occurs to me: is there anything that Jonathan Majors could do from a comms standpoint? Is there anything that Jonathan Majors could do to improve his situation? An impossible situation, one would seem, right? You've got huge sections of the media against you, a district attorney's office that is completely against you and using all the Me Too talking points to effectively fight against you. And you're now on the cover all over the place with people saying that you have been convicted of harassment and assault. Bottom line, we live in a 144 character world of communications where basically no matter what happens, it's conviction, 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 conviction. Nobody is going to write as a headline, he was acquitted on 2 charges, even though he was acquitted on 2 charges. But that's not the headline. That's not the way the world works in terms of clickbait and media companies making money off of these types of sensational stories that involve celebrity. And boy, do they love to glue themselves to stories that have anything to do with celebrities and dating, sex, anything related to that. And they're on it and they're making a lot of money with it. And they're going to continue to do so. The question is, from a communication strategy, is there any way to fight against it? I actually think it's close to impossible, but nothing is impossible. It's one of the most difficult PR challenges ever. And of course, a lot of the people who put on these types of cases, they know it. They know that there's no defense because there's no way to prove or disprove something. You can't prove a negative. Somebody accuses you of something, you generally can never prove a negative if there's only 2 people in a room. It's literally impossible. In this particular case, in the Majors case, you did have some pretty, I think, impressive evidence in terms of video, text messages, and audio, which you typically would never have. One of the strategies, it seems to me, that really does not work is this strategy of not saying anything. See, a lot of people do it. You see that Jonathan Majors didn't testify in his own trial to defend himself. Was that a good decision? I'm not too sure it was. And I'm not too sure it's a good decision from this point forward to not talk. So he comes out of the courtroom, he doesn't talk. And I'm sure his attorneys are telling him that. That's generally what attorneys tell people to do. Don't say anything. The question is that working? Does it work? I don't think so. I don't think it works at all. I think it's one of the dumbest strategies going, not to have the person talking, not their attorney, not their comms person, the actual person, and preferably on camera. Because what happens is, in the media age that we live in, is that if you are on camera talking, you will fill the zone with your information. You will fill the zone with what you want to get across. They'll use that footage. They'll use the footage of you talking. And a lot of times they'll use it first and foremost before anything. And it typically will step on anything that anybody else is doing, even a Manhattan DA like Alvin Bragg. Of course, the Manhattan DA has a huge amount of power. His office has a huge amount of power. But if you keep appearing on camera and you keep defending yourself and talking and explaining yourself, as he could have done during the trial, by the way, that is going to put you in a position where your information is going to get out first. Now, it was interesting to think about the judge, Michael Gaffey. He put out a gag order on everybody. There are 2 decisions the judge made in the case of Grace Jabbari and John Majors. 2 things. One was, it was interesting that he did not allow cameras in the courtroom. I have no idea why judges, there's no reason that cameras can't be in the courtroom. And there's no reason why the public can't see what's going on firsthand. None whatsoever. And to me, the only reason that judges do it is they don't want you to see what's going on firsthand. I mean, that's a very logical reason. They don't want you to really see what's going on firsthand. Well, the question is why? Why can't the public see firsthand what's going on? And you notice that with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, there was a number of journalists, and I thought it was very telling, that were very ticked off that there was a video camera that the public got to see firsthand that trial. I thought that was fantastic because people can make a decision for themselves about what they saw, about what evidence was relevant or not. Why do we have to see it through the filter of the media? Of course, there's certain people in the media whose entire livelihood is dependent on this idea that they are the filter, that you must go through to figure out what's going on. Of course, that's complete nonsense. But, you know, in this particular case, I found it surprising. There were two things the judge did that I think were pretty interesting. One was he put a gag order on everybody. And then, of course, two was he prohibited cameras in the courtroom. So nobody could talk about anything. And then you had nobody in the public could see anything firsthand. And you get the confusion because let's be real, there's only 25 tops, 20 to 25 people in that courtroom who get to walk out of that courtroom and explain to the public what's going on, otherwise known as journalists, reporters, media, citizen journalists, independent journalists, etc., and so on in that courtroom. And that's it. It's like 20 people with a story that you can see online. Hundreds of thousands of people are paying attention to, for good or bad. They're paying attention to it. And it's interesting because I was on Roland Martin last night, and we did a segment on Jonathan Majors last week when I was in court. And the first segment got over 100,000 views, and the second segment is getting over 100,000 views. And so that would indicate, sure, people are interested. Okay, fine. But it's like, it would have been nice if the public could have seen it for themselves. I would have had no problem. Certainly, I would have no problem as a journalist, with that and see the evidence for themselves. And instead, it's like a very small group of people gets to see it firsthand, up close. And you got to go to Manhattan, walk into the courtroom and see it and interpret it and explain it to the public. And you didn't have to do that with Johnny Depp because everybody got to see it for themselves. You did have to, and people can interpret whatever they want, but I thought that was interesting. But at any rate, John Majors, I think should talk for himself. I think he should appear before the camera and talk about his case. I think he should have taken the stand. I think that Jonathan Majors should have taken a stand. Why not? Why not? You can explain why you placed Grace Jabbari back in the car and moving traffic in Manhattan. Traffic is crazy. You can explain, you did certain things. You were locked out of your place by her while you were running away from her on the street. He can explain those things himself. So I'm not sure what the reluctance is in these cases for the person to speak for themselves directly. But from a communication standpoint, there's nothing stronger than the person speaking, because the media, who of course is making money off of that person, they love to use direct footage of somebody. They love to have footage of that person and be able to use it and make money with it, because that's what they're doing. They're making money off the clicks, they're making money off the view counts, etc., and so on. So give them what they want, but make it work to your advantage. And I think Jonathan Majors could have done that. I still think he could do it. But, it's the type of thing that there were so many things in the courtroom that were not allowed to be heard, particularly the police detective who had processed the arrest of Grace Jabbari. His testimony was completely blocked. So, that alone, not to say that Jonathan Majors should speak to that. His attorney should speak to that specifically. But they got to flood the box of information with their information. They're really not doing anything now. They're putting out a statement and they're sort of disappearing. You can't really do that. You're going up against the Manhattan DA's office. So, of course, they're going to have the communications advantage. It's like going after the President of the United States. I hate to say it, but one of the people who does it really well in terms of flooding the box with communications information is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is relentless. And the more negative it is and the more crazy it is, the more successful he is. Because, of course, the media is making money off of him. And he knows that. And he knows the game of it. And he plays the game really well. He gives the media what the media wants, which is sensationalism. Constant sensationalism. Constant clickbait. Constant reasons to be putting up another headline and putting up another story to make even more web traffic so people click on more ads and they can make more money. So he's figured it out. He's figured out that riddle. And like I said, it's not about whether we agree with Donald Trump or not. It's about, is his strategy working? And it does. 90% of the time, it actually works because the media has not caught up with what he's doing and falls into the trap over and over again. But as far as Jonathan Majors is concerned, I think he has some legitimate arguments to make, and he should make them and not be afraid to make them and not listen to his attorneys about not making them. So I know a lot of people have attorneys. Attorneys are notoriously bad when it comes to communication strategy because they tend to get into litigator mode and they think they're in the courtroom and they think they're at some deposition. You're not. You are in a world of communications, of endless communications. So there it is. Daniel Atherton has a YouTube page everybody should check out that just launched, I think it was yesterday or today, which is great news. There's a lot of people out there talking about the Majors case that are really good. She was one of the very few who are actually in the courtroom. One of that group of 20 I was talking about, that rare group of 20. But she's not the only one, though. There's a lot of folks out there who are really bringing some very interesting commentary to the Majors case. And some of them are not in the courtroom and doing really well, even though they're not in court or not even in New York. I've seen several people who put down some great analysis who are not there. Some of them are attorneys, some of them are not. Some of them just using really good common sense. But anyway, I would encourage everybody to check those people out as well. Good luck.
Did you have a story?